Negro VMX here, and it's time to take a look at Batman Begins. After the critical and commercial epic failure of Batman and Robin, the planned fifth Batman movie, Batman Triumphant, was quickly shelved, which is a good thing considering they wanted it to feature the Scarecrow as possibly played by Howard Stern. Whew. Now, I'm a big a fan as the king of all media as any other, but god damn, that would have sucked. They were also wanting to have Harley Quinn as changed to being the Joker's daughter, and have Nicholson reprise his role as the Joker in a hallucination. Joel Schumacher would have directed it, and I can only assume that Batman and Robin would have fought crime in assless chaps. Instead, the series was killed, and wasn't resurrected until 2005, when Batman Begins came out. Instead of being a sequel or a continuation of the series, it's a complete reboot, starting a new series from scratch with a new cast, new director, new direction, and starting with Batman's origin. The film was directed by Christopher Nolan and had an all-star cast. Christopher Bale plays Bruce Wayne, also known as Batman. Michael Caine plays Alfred. Katie Holmes plays his childhood friend and love interest, Rachel Dawes. Gary Oldman plays Jim Gordon, who is a lieutenant at this point in time. Morgan Freeman plays Lucius Fox. Rutger Hauer plays some guy taking care of Wayne Corp. I forget his name. The main villain is Ra's al Ghul, perhaps the greatest Batman villain other than the Joker. He's played by Ken Watanabe, a famous Japanese actor, and his assistant, Henry Ducard, is played by Liam Neeson. Now, we learned from the opening how Bruce Wayne discovered the Batcave at a young age, falling into it. The bats scared him pretty badly, and that became an ongoing fear. His parents are eventually killed by a mugging, and he's adopted by the butler, Alfred. He eventually goes off to college, but returns to Gotham when there's a chance that Joe Chill, the man who killed his parents, might be released from prison in return for giving information on his former cellmate, crime boss Carmine Falcone. Bruce plans to shoot Chill after he's released for revenge, but he's beat to it by one of Falcone's thugs. Realizing that Falcone's grip on the city is bringing Gotham back to depression, Bruce vows to fight crime and goes on a journey to understand its nature. He's eventually incarcerated in a Bhutanese prison and released by Henry Ducard, who inducts him into the League of Shadows under the watchful eye of Ra's al Ghul. When Bruce learns he will be expected to execute criminals, he escapes, burning the League's fortress, and Ra's al Ghul dies. He comes back to Gotham 7 years after he's left and gets started creating the identity of Batman. There's a lot shown of his training, motivation, and how he puts everything together, including prototypical versions of his costume and Batmobile and other gadgets, something Tim Burton's Batman movie never bothered with. Batman immediately starts going to work and cleaning up the city, apprehending Carmine Falcone. He learns Falcone is working with a mysterious criminal psychologist called the Scarecrow, who is making the fear toxin and has been putting it into the water supply. He then plans to use a stolen device that vaporizes water to weaponize it, and Gotham will rip itself up through fear. Behind this is the League of Shadows, led by Henry Ducard, who turns out to be the real Ra's al Ghul. The bald Japanese guy is only a decoy. This is the only major departure from the comics. In the movie, Ra's al Ghul is white and calls himself Henry Ducard, and the decoy is a Japanese man. In the books, they are two separate people. Henry Ducard is a Frenchman, and Ra's al Ghul is an Arab. But it works for the whole ninja theme to make it Japanese instead, and since they're leaving out all the mystical Lazarus Pit stuff, it doesn't really matter. Everything leads to a big showdown between Batman and Ra's al Ghul, which Batman wins by mixing his League of Shadows training with his own theatricality and smarts. The real Ra's al Ghul dies in a train wreck and Gotham is safe. At the end of the movie, the Scarecrow is still at large, and there's a lot of escaped criminals running around. The Bat Signal is created, and Batman promises that he will help the city's police force set everything right. However, at the very end, it's hinted that Batman's presence has inspired a new breed of criminals, a theatrical bank robber who leaves a calling card, a Joker. So, what can I say about the movie itself? They actually did everything right. The cast is excellent, and nobody is prone to overacting. The only complaint is with Katie Holmes, who is a bit wooden, but not everything can be perfect. Some people complain that the action is jerky and rushed so that you can't see much of it. But that's how bad. So what can I say about the movie itself? They actually did everything right. The cast is excellent and nobody is prone to overacting. The only complaint is with Katie Holmes, who comes off a bit wooden, but not everything can be perfect. Some people like to complain that the action is jerky and rushed and that you can't see much of it, but that's how Batman works. It's all about confusing enemies and dropping in on them suddenly and attacking unseen. It shouldn't really be much of an action movie, and it isn't. Christian Bale is definitely the best Batman, and he understands that when he puts the cowl on, it's a completely different persona that's all about intimidating people. His Batman growl has been ridiculed by a lot of people, but let's face it makes the bad guys shit themselves, and that's the point of it. The plot itself works well and has a central theme which fits into the title, Batman Begins. It's all about beginnings and learning how to do what he does. He even has to practice being Bruce Wayne. The best actor in the movie is probably Gary Oldman as Gordon. I barely realized Gary Oldman was in the movie. It was just Gordon. The movie is pretty much exactly what I wanted from a Batman movie all along. It's chock full of all the stuff the first Batman movie only touched upon, and clearly it doesn't have the maniacal gothiness of Tim Burton's touch or the zany homoeroticism of Schumacher's. The movie was a success, and for good reason. It's a damn fine movie and a great way to kickstart a new Batman film franchise. For the first time, the studio, the director, and the cast were all on the same page and were all taking making a Batman movie seriously. And the result is a serious movie, but also a fun one. I give Batman Begins a 9 out of a possible 10.